Blessings, everybody. I hope you're doing well wherever you may find yourselves. I am Dane, host of the channel, and welcome to a new episode of Faceoff Friday, where I pit one album against another. And sometimes it'll be two albums in the same discography from a band or artist. Sometimes it'll be two different albums from two different bands or two different artists. Now, today is a special one because I am pitting, as you can see from the thumbnail, two albums that are both live albums. And of course, these make sense to compare because you have someone who used to be in Black Sabbath when this comes out, and someone who is in Black Sabbath when this comes out. This comes out during the MTV years, right? It was on MTV all the time. I must have seen it 10, 11, 12 times. Never missed it when I knew it was coming on. I love it still today, and it's interesting because it comes out and we're like, wow, there's no solo work from Ozzy on here at all. So it's just him. So essentially what's happened is deliberate, both of them competing to see who is the better band doing Black Sabbath songs. So that's part of this reason for this video as well. Now, if you're new to this series, I will more often than not rate each album by the numbers, and if you don't know what that means, very quickly, that means I assign a rating to each song, add that up, and then divide by the number of tracks to get a rating, and then based on my rating scale, anywhere from horrible or abysmal, atrocious, up to and including legendary, and each of those has a number. So for example, atrocious is a 0 and legendary is an 11, and if it's less than 9.5, it's rounded down. If it's 9.5, it's 9.5. 9.5 is an excellent, and then 9.6 or higher would be a 10. Okay, so, and 10 is a masterpiece, 11 legendary. All right, so now keep in mind also that I will not make my decision always on who gets the higher rating by the numbers. Sometimes I will just go with my gut. I will tell you most often than not how I rate them by numbers, although I didn't do that last week. Sometimes I won't do it, I guess. But sometimes I just have to throw the rating by numbers out the window because I have to go how I feel in here and in here. I have to go with my gut, so to speak. So just keep that in mind. But it is fun to rate them by the numbers. So before we get into talking about the tracks on both of these wonderful live albums, they're two of my favorite live albums at all time. It also reminds me of something that happened in high school, because both of these came out when I was in high school. And that is, I picked up a copy of Hit Parader because of the three articles in there. One of them was who coined the phrase heavy metal and why it's important. And there was a picture of Ted Nugent in the table of contents and in the article itself when you turn to it. Then there was an article about the new Iron Maiden album, Peace of Mind. And there were some quotes from the band members. And then there was a discussion because Ozzy's on MTV with this and he's touring. Wonderful set list. Wonderful set list. You have, of course, Ozzy on vocals. You have Tommy Aldridge, wonderful drummer on drums. Joins Whitesnake later. You have wonderful Rudy Sarzo on bass and the amazing Brad Gillis on guitar. To this day, I don't know what effects pedals he uses to get his guitar with the tremolo, the tremolo to make that razor. It's a weird sound. He does it in Night Ranger as well. I'm not sure what that's called, but anyway, so. In the article about comparing both of these albums, because again, they're competing with one another. It's essentially a pissing contest. Black Sabbath versus Ozzy. Yes, I do believe it was deliberate that these came out roughly at the same time to see who reigned supreme, so to speak. And you know the story about how Ozzy disowns this album. I still think it's great. All Music gave it 2.5. Martin Popoff gives it 8 out of 10, and Sounds gives it 5 out of 5. And then this was during the Black and Blue tour when Black Sabbath is touring with Blue Oyster Cult. So in the Hit Parader article, it's talking about comparing the two and which one is better, and they took a poll and they posted some of the quotes or comments of fans. And those fans explaining why Dio is better than Ozzy or Ozzy is better than Dio. And I remember this quote like it was yesterday. It was very vulgar towards Dio or very disrespectful towards Dio. Essentially, the guy said, I'm going to quote as close as I can remember. He said something to the effect of, Ozzy reigns supreme. Dio sounds like his jock strap is flushed. Flush it. Move over, Rover. Ozzy's taking over. So anyway, I'm weighing in. So let's talk about this album by the numbers. So, Symptom of the Universe is the first track on Speak of the Devil. I give this 11 out of 10. I love the live version here. I love the studio track as well. I give them both 11 out of 10s. I love the song. It's so heavy. It's wonderful. Snowblind, I give it a 10 out of 10. I like the Volume 4 version a bit better. Both of these tracks for me are 10 out of 10, but even though they're both the same rating, I still like the Volume 4 by a smidge. Black Sabbath, 9 out of 10. I like the Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I'm sorry. I like the debut version of Black Sabbath on the first album better than the live version here. But talk about, it's not a title track, but it's the song of the name of the band, whatever that's called. Great song, whether debut or this version. But I would give the debut version a 10 out of 10. This is a 9 out of 10 for whatever reason. There's something slightly missing, I guess. Fairies Wear Boots, give a 10 out of 10. I like the Paranoid version better, but this is a really nice version of Ozzy in his solo career doing it. War Pigs, give an 8 out of 10. I like the studio version much better, or a little bit better. The Wizard, for me, this is a definitive version. For whatever reason, call it nostalgia, call it high school. It sounds a little fresher than the debut, maybe produced a little better. I'm not sure, but I have to give this a 10 out of 10. The studio version, I would give a 10 out of 10 as well, but there's something a little bit more magical going on here. I'm not sure why. NIB, same thing. For me, this is a definitive version. Perhaps it's nostalgia again, something to do with the fact that in high school at lunch, myself and my friends during lunch, we would often sing this while we're having lunch at the lunch table, but we wouldn't say, oh yeah, we would say, well. Something for another time, maybe. Let's move on. So, I don't know what I'm talking about sometimes. All right, so next is Sweet Leaf, and that is a 9 out of 10. I like the studio version better, although this is a pretty cool kick-ass track. Never Say Die, I've always thought this was a good song, not a great song, so like this studio version, I give this, like that one, an 8 out of 10. I do like it. If you had to put, meat to the fire, I would say I like this version a little better. Let's see, where was I? Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I love the studio track. What a great way to open an album. It's so heavy, right? When Ozzy is angry and full of angst, he's never better. Here, it's wonderful. I like the studio version better, but this is a close second. I give this a 9 out of 10. The studio version a 10 out of 10. Iron Man, it's okay, 8 out of 10. Children of the Grave, the first song from the album that I heard on the radio before I saw the concert on MTV or bought the album is wow, it's on me. I was like, what is that? And because I hadn't heard much of the third album yet. I'm still in high school. I'm still learning new things. So anyway, Children of the Grave is amazing, 11 out of 10. And then Paranoid, I just give that an 8 out of 10. I like the studio version better. So if you do it by the numbers, for me, from the ratings I just told you, you get a 9.3, round it down to a 9. And a 9 for me is great. So this is a great album for me. Now let's talk about this beauty. Now, before I start doing this by the numbers, even though I'm holding the deluxe expanded edition from a while back, I'm going to talk about, I didn't feel like pulling it out. I'm going to talk about the most recent version that has the remix. That's the definitive version for many of us, which is the best version. So, by the numbers, you get E5 I50, which means evil. I just give this a 7 out of 10. And the reason for that is because Mob Rules, or the Mob Rules doesn't follow it. Had you had those stay together like on the Stu album, I would have ranked this much higher. When it launches into Neon Nights, it doesn't follow through. It doesn't click totally, or the drive is gone. It's the word I'm looking for. It's anticlimactic. That's the word. So because of that anticlimactic, you don't get the Mob Rules. I give it a 7 out of 10. And had you started off with Neon Knights instead, I would have given that a 10 out of 10. But because of the anticlimactic switch from E5 I50, which is supposed to be an instrumental, to the Mob Rules, I give Neon Knights a 9 instead of a 10. It's still great though. Children of the Sea, one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs of all time. I give it an 11 out of 10 here. It's wonderful. Voodoo, I love. Give it a 10 out of 10. Now, Black Sabbath. Dio doing Black Sabbath. It works because Dio talks about his solo career, and in Rainbow, he talks about Dungeons and Dragons and mysticism and the supernatural, right? It works because of the aura that Dio has in the things that he likes to sing about, right? So it works totally. As a heavy metal song, as Dio as a heavy metal vocalist, different from Ozzy, and yet it works so good. It's not as good as Ozzy, but I do give it an 8 out of 10. Some days I want to give it a 9, but here I give it an 8 out of 10. War Pigs, this doesn't do much for me with Dio on vocals, so I give it a 7 out of 10. Same thing for Iron Man, same reason, 7 out of 10. The Mob Rules, because it's not paired up with E5 I50, I give it a 9 out of 10. Heaven and Hell, one of the best Sabbath songs of all time, one of the best Dio-led Sabbath songs of all time. I give it a 10 out of 10. Sign of the Southern Cross comes next. I give it a 9 out of 10 because what you have here is Sign of the Southern Cross and then the ending of Heaven and Hell. I hated that they do that. I should give Heaven and Hell a 9 out of 10 because of that, but I don't. But I give Sign of the Southern Cross a 9 out of 10 because it interrupts the flow of Heaven and Hell, if that makes sense. Paranoid, this is the worst of the Dio trying to sing Ozzy songs, so I give it a 6 out of 10. And then, boy, do I love Children of the Grave here. This is the best Ozzy era song with Dio singing the vocals of the ones on here. I love this version. Is it as good as Ozzy on here or on the studio? No, but it says something when you give it a 9 out of 10. So Children of the Grave, like the song Black Sabbath, it works, but here it works even better. It works even though we're talking about nuclear war and that kind of thing. Anyway, and then I'm not going to rate Fluff at all because Fluff is not them playing. It is just a recording playing in the background as the band is walking off the stage. So to me, that doesn't count. So when you do it by the numbers, you get an 8.5. So, had I not rated these by the numbers, which of these two reigns supreme? You're still going to get the same answer. It's got to be, for me, it's got to be this. Okay? This is not Black Sabbath, but it is Black Sabbath, okay? That's how good this album is. I know Ozzy disowned it, but to me, I listened to this. This is a Black Sabbath record, okay? That's how much I love it. Yeah, people have said that Ozzy and Black Sabbath was the weakest link. I could not disagree more. Does he have the vocal talent that David Coverdale or Ian? No, but there's something. There's just a chemistry when it comes to Ozzy when he's with Sabbath and with his solo stuff, especially his first 2 solo albums and then this and then some other stuff. But let's face it, for me, Ozzy in his heyday is the first 2 solo records and this, and then it's kind of a falling off with Bark of the Moon. So tell me what you think in the comments. Do you like the Dio album better than the All Sabbath tunes by Ozzy? Anyway, thanks for watching. God bless. Take care now. Bye.